Hello everyone and welcome back to What a Barb, a Polin podcast.
A Polin podcast.
I'm Ovs and I'm joined by Lecky Beans and Veg as we grab our trowels, our little dusting brushes and prepare to head back deep into the Polin archives. Yep, we're back for Crumbs, aka our production recaps. How's everyone doing? I will preface this by saying we said we were going on our Thanksgiving break and we're recording this like 2 days after we said that. So the Americans haven't had Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
How do you imagine your Thanksgiving went, Americans? And Veg, because you also partially celebrate. Do you think you had a good Thanksgiving?
Out of 12 bows, I'm going to give mine a 5.
Could have been better, Lek.
Well, I am cooking a lot.
You're getting very festive, aren't you, babe?
Oh, I love cooking for people I love. Oh my God.
Oh.
So excited.
Veg, how was your Thanksgiving?
I think my Thanksgiving was ultimately good. Maybe a solid 4 bows. I probably don't think it was worth the £70, I'm guessing, because it was quite expensive.
You've paid to actually go and have the full experience, haven't you?
I have. I'm obsessed with American barbecue since I lived in Texas, and there's this one place in London that does American barbecue, and they're doing a Thanksgiving feast.
They did a Thanksgiving
They did a
feast. We're in the future,
Thanksgiving
babe.
feast.
It's true. Much like Pirate Colin, you're coming to us fresh off the boat, Obs, aren't you?
Literally. I genuinely still feel a bit seasick.
Oh no.
Rushed back to town.
Yes, I did. I was stranded on an island. The weather was so bad that the boat wouldn't go, so I got stuck there.
All very glad that she was able to get off that island because the conditions didn't sound great.
Yep. I started talking to a new boy. The girls know about him.
We've got a new suitor. How apt. Thank you for committing to the bit. We've got a new suitor in town, just like we're going to have later in the episode.
We have 2 suitors, but one that I like a little bit more. Another one is just a bit too intense for me.
Yeah.
But this one guy we met a little bit ago, a couple weeks ago, we've been sending each other like playlists of music. The Pisces. Yeah. And
I endorse this.
We have been talking about how we both have anxiety, and then we've been sending each other horoscope memes and stuff like that. And we're actually both going to the same concert purely by happenstance, so we're probably going to meet up there.
Oh, that could be fun.
We're rooting for beans.
And then the other guy is wild. I don't know what sign he is, but it's feeling air sign. And
We've been through it. We need to say, no, you're not allowed. We've been through this.
he's so passionate. It's crazy.
Stick with your fish, babe.
I know. We'll see. I'm just having fun.
Oh, one thing to mention, because by the time this does come out, it'll be really old news. But how excited are you for what Jonathan Bailey said?
He said tantalizing.
Tantalized. And like full of heart, right?
Full of heat.
Full of heat. Oh, no.
That's so wholesome of you, but no.
Yeah, I was like tantalizing and full of heart. Oh, how cute.
So I feel like every time a cast member has been asked about season 3.
Yeah, they said it's hot.
Yeah, and then Nicholas said they're not kids anymore in that To Doom interview we've recently discovered.
Yeah, that's been out since August.
Yeah. So yeah, it's exciting.
I love pent-up passion.
That slow burn, and then, it's going to be good.
Well, Lecky, let's go see if we've got any of the breaking crumbs of the week. So, Lecky, what have you got for us this week?
Hello, Barbkin. It has been a little while, and we have a lot to cover, so let's jump straight in. In Season 3 news, Nicola was interviewed by Ireland's 6 O'Clock show and shared a few hints about Season 3. She said that she is excited and honestly can't wait, and also commented on the amazing Bridgerton fans and their impatience. She hinted that she's been feeling equally impatient, saying, "You have no idea how impatient I feel about Season 3. Nick also confirmed that Season 3 will, quote, finally be coming out in 2024, and said that filming was one of the best experiences she's ever had. She went on to say that Luke Newton was so wonderful and that they upgraded her wig and described the season as really funny, really romantic, and that they have incorporated a lot of rom-com elements. She added that, "I just want people to see it now. I have no date yet and I am checking my emails every day, but it's closer now than it's ever been." Nicola also posted on Instagram to say, "Guys, if you think you can't wait for things I filmed to come out in 2024, I totally get you. I feel the same. I'm not allowed to share anything till the powers that be give me the okay. Very excited to share everything with you once I'm allowed." As always, we're grateful to Nicola for thinking of the fans and reaching out when she can, even knowing that she feels the teensiest bit as impatient as us, I think has made us feel a lot better about the wait for season 3. We also recently received a very interesting crumb from the actress who plays the role of Eloise and does the Hungarian dubbing for the show. In a photo Laura Dobroshi shared from a recording session, fans could see a tiny bit of the season 3 script on the screen behind her. We're not entirely certain, but it seems as though although a few different but interconnected scenes are on the page behind her, which when translated seem to include phrases such as, I'm throwing, pay attention, the exclamation, oh, and oh my god, and then, Mama, Ray will accompany me to the rot. With the rest of the word cut off, I'll get some air, can't you see, and catch.
Are we letting the catch and toast go around again, Lecky?
Yes, that's probably what it was. We've all been busy trying to make some sense of these excerpts. We do know they come from episode 2, but we don't know much more than that. Do they depict a family scene? Are they flashbacks? We've speculated that the name of the location that was cut off was in fact Rotten Row in Hyde Park, a fashionable horse riding location in the Regency era and one that has been referenced in show scripts before. But who is Ray? Upon reviewing the script, Ovs and I, clowning as always, came to believe it could be part of the flashback where Baby Polin meet for the first time as children appear to be playing a game where they are throwing something. I thought maybe one of the reasons Colin falls off his horse could be that they startle the animal somehow, especially since Rotten Row is mentioned. Like perhaps this introduces that the kids are playing, he leaves, and upon returning home his horse maybe is startled, and then meet cute with pen happens. We also speculated that Ray could be Elle's as of yet unnamed lady's maid. Who knows, as always, just as much in the dark as everyone else on this one, but it is interesting. In other crummy news, Happy Planner have announced more Bridgerton journal options, which again seem to include little hints about season 3. We were very excited to see Be Daring, My Darling used again. I am convinced this is dialogue in season 3, along with another phrase that I believe we will be discussing in more depth in an upcoming episode. Have we got a theory or two for you? And they're probably wrong. Anyway, while speaking at a book festival in Guadalajara, Julia Quinn confirmed that she has read all the scripts and watched the first 4 episodes of season 3, saying it was great, before again reiterating that she doesn't know the release date, and even if she did, wouldn't be able to say. Some listeners may be aware of the long-standing rumor that actor Victor Ali will be playing the role of John Sterling in season 3. It's never been officially confirmed that Victor is joining the cast, though Obs has seen him on set, but a recent magazine feature has hinted that is the case. Victor was profiled in Men About Town as a part of their New in Town Screen Inductees portfolio. Although the issue has yet to be released, the magazine's Instagram post said, with rumors rife that he'll be joining the Bridgerton franchise for its upcoming season, 2024 might just be the year the world becomes fully acquainted with the burgeoning star. We will be talking about Victor more in the coming weeks during our production episodes, so stay tuned for that. As we mentioned during our introduction, Jonathan Bailey has also been doing quite a few interviews recently about his current and upcoming projects, including Bridgerton. At the GQ Men of the Year event earlier in November, he said of season 3, it's going to be tantalizing. My brother Luke Newton is bringing the heat with Nicola. During an interview with The One Show, Jonathan again mentioned Luke in a very sweet moment where he said, I'm so proud of my younger bro, Luke Newton. Love you, bro. It's his story this year. Shondaland know what they're doing, and it's just going to get better and better. He also sounded kind of choked up during when he was saying that on that.
He did. So sweet.
It was so sweet. He also shared an anecdote about how the designers gifted him Antony's pocket watch at the end of season 2, which is also very sweet. Joni Bailey was also on the cover of Gay Times magazine's Honors 2023 issue in recognition of him becoming a patron of the LGBT plus young people's charity Just Like Us. He has also designed a scarf to benefit the Terrence Higgins Trust if you would like to go and support that campaign. We will be sharing the link in our show notes.
Of course.
Elsewhere, congratulations are in order to the cast and crew of Nicola Coughlan's Dairy Girls, which won the International Emmy for Comedy. UK listeners, you can also catch Nicola in Dodger, which airs on CBBC on Sunday, December 3rd. Nicola's upcoming project Big Mood was featured in Drama Quarterly. In the article, Nicola talks about the challenges of playing the role of Maggie, including 3 weeks where filming overlapped with Bridgerton, saying that my head was fried, I'd never been the lead on any show before, and this was 2 at once, and they were vastly different. Big Mood is set to debut in 2024, and we're hoping a date will be confirmed soon. I do feel sorry for Nick, because I believe Bridgerton was even shooting 6 days at the end there, so I don't know how she managed to shoot both. She and Johnny Bailey worked their butts off last season.
Insane.
Everyone's favorite footman, Ollie Higginson, will be starring in the upcoming concert production of I Wish You Well, the Gwyneth Paltrow ski trial musical, which will take place at the Turbine Theatre in London on Monday, December 11th.
I cannot tell you how gutted I am. I'm missing that.
You're going to miss that?
I'm devastated. I really, really hope because it's a concert version, so I'm hoping they do an actual production of it at some point. But if you're around London, please go.
And lastly, Bridgerton makeup designer Erica Oakvist has shared an appeal from the UK's film TV charity. The appeal hopes to remind the public that while the strikes might be over, the emergency emergency is not. Industry workers continue to struggle in the aftermath of the Hollywood strikes, with 75% of UK workers believed to still be out of work. As comedian Rosie Jones says in the appeal, help put food on the table for those who put smiles on our faces. We will be including a link in our show notes if you are able to make a donation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Lecky, that was quite the update. Of course, in the time that we have a 2-week break, everything happens.
I hope you liked that feast of crumbs, because we've got a lot more for you in this crumb episode.
That was like a whole churro. But Lecky, we've got a lot to get through, as if we haven't already. So shall we get on with the rest of the episode? Let's head over. So, as I said earlier, we're back with another Crumbs episode. In our last Crumbs episode, which was actually back in July, I think we did mean to have these Crumbs episodes closer together, but, you know, life happens, doesn't it? So back in July, we had an episode dedicated to the pre-production period that covered everything from the release of season 2 right up until late June, just before filming for season 3 officially got underway. So we talked about season 2 reactions, the hints that season 3 was going to be Penn and Colin's, and then all the little crumbs that we got before production finally started. So if you want to go catch up with that episode, definitely go do that, because it goes through a little bit more about how Bridgerton is produced, a little bit more about the behind the scenes. But today, we're focusing on the next stage for the beginnings of production, the beginning of Block 1. But Beans, resident Crumbs Queen Beans that you are, can you just give us a quick overview for new listeners, or, you know, it's been a while, refresh our minds on how filming works for Bridgerton and what we'll be covering today?
So filming in Bridgerton usually is 4 blocks, and for each block they film 2 episodes. And the episodes are filmed in chronological order by block, but they're filmed out of order within the blocks, if that makes sense.
Right.
And each block takes about 8 to 10 weeks. Originally we thought it was 6, but it looks like it's evened out to about 8 to 10 weeks. And it takes about 8 months pretty much to film after everything, you know, including the holidays. It's been pretty consistent from season 1 to season 3, about 8 months of filming. So it's a huge production. But today we'll specifically be focusing on block 1, which is episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah, kicking things off. So this will roughly cover the period from early July to mid to late August-ish, that kind of period. We don't have the exact date. Yeah. But Beans, we do think we know this season's upcoming directors.
So it hasn't officially been announced yet who the directors are, but
it's just laughing.
They have all said it, but like the amount of work we did just to figure out who they were always makes me laugh, because we were like just paying attention. I do want to make a huge shout out to Romance, because she does the research. A lot of the stuff I found from Crumbs I found through her, and I've spoken to her on Twitter, but she doesn't know my handle. So hey girl, hey, thanks for your help.
Team effort.
Yep. So we think for block 1, which is episodes 1 and 2, it's Trisha Brock. She was also the director for episodes 201 and 202. And we found that out because at Tadoom 2022 last year, when they read part of the script, we zoomed in and we got Trisha Brock on it. So that was spoiled for us. That was our confirmation. And then in block 2, episodes 3 and 4 will be Andrew On, which was confirmed by cinematographer Diana Lifarova. And she worked with Andrew on these episodes. Andrew On also did the movie Fire Island, which is like the gay version of Pride and Prejudice. It's really good. He's really great.
I love that movie so much.
You guys should check it out.
Yeah.
For block 3, episodes 5 and 6 was Billy Woodruff. Billy let it slip before they went on their Christmas break that he had been working on Bridgerton, and then quickly edited the caption. So that's how we found out. And then he officially confirmed recently that he worked on Bridgerton, like a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And he's worked on a lot of music videos.
I believe he was also the director of Honey, the dance movie from the early 2000s.
But yeah, we'll be excited to see what he does too. We'll be excited for everybody. And then finally, for episodes 7 and 8, a familiar name is, and that's in block 4, is Tom Verica. He's the director of Queen Charlotte and a few episodes of Bridgerton, including the season 2 wedding episode. So specifically in this episode, we're going to be talking about block 1, episodes 1 and 2, like I mentioned, which means that we will be talking about Trisha Brock.
Welcome back, Trisha.
Welcome back, Trisha.
As Beans mentioned, we'll be picking up from where we left off last episode, but this is a true Crumbs expedition with a lot of canning involved. So if you want to join us, then we recommend you grab your excavation tools and jump headfirst into the ancient wonders of 2022, a simpler, happier time.
Jeez.
We have aged.
Yeah.
It's taken its toll. But we'll be admiring these holy Polin treasures that now live in the Polin Halls of Fame. So Pirate Colin, we've got today. The word swagger, Pen's baby curls, as well as scrambling down the back of drawers and venturing into the darkest corners of the Polin archive to unearth every single crumb we can find from that epoch. So we'll be trawling through the fragmented records of the ancient civilizations who lived through that age. E.g., we went onto Reddit and dug up some old posts and our old comments. But, you know, the first-hand accounts, the testimonies of those who lived through those momentous times, aka our group chats.
They were fun.
They were great times, weren't they? And this is partially what these episodes are for. They're our attempt to piece together what we possibly know. Anything official that we did get. So we've got social media posts, we've got cast interviews when they came out, but also just reliving this wonderful journey that brought us all together. Could use many other words to describe it, but we'll go with wonderful for today.
Splendid journey.
Splendid journey. Just a couple of disclaimers, though, before we get started. Almost every single thing we're going to say in these episodes is complete speculation. If it didn't come from Netflix, Shondaland, or a cast member or a reputed news outlet like Deadline, it's not official. You need to take it with a huge grain of salt. And I mean an industrial amount. We are clowning to the highest degree.
Yeah.
We're digging deep into any and all filming leaks and spoilers we can dig up out the ground. So potentially there might be big spoilers for season 3 lurking in these parts. Although if you've been listening to us for a while, you're probably used to our filming leak discussions by now. And like I say, we're likely very wrong about a lot of what we're going to say. We'll correct it if we can, but locations could be wrong, dates could be wrong, and crucially, our interpretations of filming leak could be very wrong as well. So this is just what we think. And all sources and posts are going to be linked in our show notes. So our eternal gratitude to everyone who gathered and shared the crumbs along the way. We salute you. We're here simply to compile all of those crumbs, report them back. If we are responsible for the crumbs, we will tell you. But if not, this is all the hard work of Polin fans and sometimes just members of the public.
Yes. Random doctors strolling past filming sites.
Yeah.
And all credit goes to them, and you'll find the credit in our show notes. But let's kick things off in the most traditional way for this fandom by having to issue a correction for our past clowning. So let's transport ourselves back to last summer, 2022. The fandom was on absolute tenterhooks. So we're talking late June. We had all the crumbs. We knew that filming was about to kick off at any moment, and everyone was desperately waiting that very first filming crumb. It seemed our wishes had been granted when filming was spotted over at Firle Place. There was a lot of speculation as to what this could be, especially as the intimacy coordinator was on set. However, dear listeners, we are now pretty sure this wasn't filming for Bridgerton at all, but it was actually the spin-off Queen Charlotte.
Yeah, so this actually happened like quite a few times during the entire filming process. The locations Bridgerton has used have but also been used by like many different productions.
England's not that big.
Yeah, some of which just happened to be filming at the exact same time. It really made the whole crumbs tracking process a little bit confusing at times because we'd think something was for Bridgerton only for it to turn out to be like for the Great or for Queen Charlotte or the Crown, and just a few. I'm sure there were even more.
It was really confusing.
It also just didn't help that so many of the productions seemed to be period dramas, too. It made it very hard to figure out what was Bridgerton, and we often jumped to the wrong conclusions. Also, Belgravia, season 2.
Oh my God, don't talk to me about Belgravia season. Talk about going on bloody boats. I went on a boat to bloody the Belgravia set. So yes, where possible, we will try to pick up on these mistakes and correct the official record. I mean, the clowning record. So filming didn't begin over at Firle Park like we originally thought last year. When do we think filming began, Lecky?
So we believe July 6th was the first day of shooting, as several hair and makeup artists posted to their Instagram stories that day, sharing photos taken from set. This is likely the first day of filming, as the hair and makeup artist likely would not have needed to be on set until then. And surprisingly, a few hilarious crumbs emerged as Polin fans studied these photos in more detail. For example, you can actually glimpse a red wig in one of the photos, many of which were later removed, I believe. In one particular shot, you can see the red wig in the bottom left corner of the screen, as well as reflected in a mirror. The initials in the background also seem to be consistent with the name of the hair and makeup artist who worked with Pen and Kate in season 3, and who we know did Pen's hair for season 3. Amusingly, there is also a hilariously blurry shot of what looks like Luke Newton reflected in one of the gifs, a little mirror compact.
I mean, it's a mirror kicking us off the right way. So I think this then counts our first official sightings of Pen and Colin in season 3. Welcome. I mean, there were a lot of occasions during filming where they were like blurs, and we'd spend hours trying to dissect if these blurs were our blurs.
So we will be tracking these Bridger blurs as we go through our production episodes. Some of the blurs will be Polin blurs, and others have been proven not to be blurs, and we will clarify where necessary where we think Polin and Colin have actually been seen and where they have not.
And I think we can safely say that these blurs are our blurs. We've got a blurry pen. I mean, she's a wig, but I think she counts. And a blurry potential Colin. So welcome. And Veg, how are they both looking?
Right. So you guys, back at it. Bet you thought you'd seen the last of me. Yeah. Here we go. I'm doing a lot with a little here, but strap yourselves in. I'll paint the pic. So we've got a lovely getting ready station. We've got some makeup brushes, some hairpins, and tiniest glimpse of a wig on roughly a 16th of the screen. It's beautiful. It's red. So Pen's wig looks long, but the curls are tight, kind of ringlets. Now, remember, this is block 1 as Beans has described, so she's still early on her season 3 transformation journey. Let's not panic. We know that she's regressing after the horrors of 208, but it's softer. It's kind of fluffy, almost soft look. So, I like it.
They're kind of like tight, but still like romantic. The ringlets.
Yeah, exactly. So, in this tiny little reflection, we think we've got Colin. His hair is being tousled back. So this was the first glimpse, I think. It's being styled quite intensely at the top. Was this the first clue to the soft pirate waves of the high seas that Colin's going to give us? Maybe so. And the sideburns are sideburning quite hard here. I think this was definitely our first preview as to what season 3 had in store for our leads in terms of the styling.
Yes. So we were really grasping at tiny crumbs here.
So on the blur tracker, which I believe will be tracking the blur throughout the Crumbs journey, I think we don't even have Pen in this picture, so I don't know if that even appears on the scale. We have a wig that might be...
Her curls are quite defined, though.
Sure. The curls aren't blurry, if it is Pen.
I think he is deniably Colin. I think he could be someone else.
He's definitely a Bridgerton boy, though.
But then Luke talks a lot in that interview with the Evening Standard. He said that they get ready together.
Yeah.
Him and Nick.
Okay.
I mean, they've never looked better. I think we can just shut up shop right now. There we go. Who needs promo when we've got these two blurs?
Just as a reminder that filming was supposed to start a little bit earlier, but it was delayed. Very likely the cast were in plenty of rehearsals before this point. They have to work with dialect coaches and dance rehearsals especially, and just they run through their lines. They go through read-throughs and everything.
Fencing training, boxing training, rowing training, whatever sport you fancy, Colin, you need to train for it.
But we believe that this is when filming really kicked off. So let's go.
Ding, ding, ding. Someone strike up the band and get the dance cards ready, because I believe we then had our very first ball sighting of season 3.
Penelope, what's ball?
And not only that, but we had our very first filming leaks of the season.
Yep.
We're in mid-July, but Beans, where are we?
So this is Osterley Park and House in London. As far as we can tell, this is a new location for season 3. It's actually a National Trust property, which a lot of places that they filmed are National Trust properties. They filmed at a few private places, but a lot of them are National Trust.
They obviously got the National Trust membership for Christmas.
It's a Georgian estate, so perfect for Bridgerton. And we can see from the leaks that filming was taking place at the house, which has a classic facade and a courtyard entrance. It looks as though the setup began in early July, with filming taking place over a week or so in mid-July.
Oh, I do remember these crumbs very fondly. So these were the first paparazzi photos we got. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
The theme of block 1 is our expectations were raised. And we sat there and thought the entire filming journey was going to be as fruitful as this. How far we fell.
Yeah.
So these appeared out of nowhere. And we had the set decor. We had all the extras in costume. We had carriages on set. And if you look very closely, we did. Believe me, we did. We were had a magnifying glass to every single pixel. We were so determined to find Penelope. I remember this. But we can see some familiar faces. Yeah. But the first thing we got, however, was the initial setup and the set dressing of the location. So like Bean said, it's this beautiful, ornate, classically inspired stately home. But Lecky, how did they decorate it?
The most memorable visuals from these leaks were the lilac and purple decor, as well as the Grecian influences in the architecture of the building itself. They have very beautiful and ornate columns, etc.
Portico, yeah.
It's very, very Polin. The columns themselves were draped in this floaty purple fabric with rings of flowers wrapped around them.
The set decoration was definitely intriguing. As we were saying, it has this portico facade and it has a courtyard that's not too dissimilar from what we saw at the Hastings Ball on the set that they made specifically for that. And the set design, if you look at of the leaks carries through to the courtyard, and the courtyard itself is decorated with white and purple flowers that are spilling over the windowsills and the doorways. And there was also this gorgeous flowery carousel gazebo being set up in the centre. Could it be an outdoor ball? Could it just be an elaborate entranceway? But enough of the set decor, enough of the purple props, the lilac draping. Who exactly is showing up to this ball, Veg?
Yes, we saw lots of very exciting people on set. We saw Claudia Jessie, our lovely Eloise, Ruth Gemmell, the Dowager Viscountess, Hannah Dodd, who is our lovely Francesca.
New Francesca.
And Luke Thompson. And we don't think we saw Nicola, or it wasn't reported on.
We did not see a red-headed blur.
No, we did not. Probably not Luke Newton. There is... Okay.
Oh.
So there was a picture, and to be honest, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like Luke. I know that the blur does distort a lot, but there's someone walking behind. This is big on the blur scale. I'm not sure the hair looks kind of high and blow dried, but I know that Lecky is convinced. Let's hear it.
I am positive this is Luke Newton. If you go back and look at the Pirate Colin links, which we will get to, there is a side profile of Pirate Colin where he's behind the scenes and he's smiling. And you can see that the outline of his hair, it has the same sort of like swoop, the same sort of height to it.
This is the detail we've gone into.
The hair on the side of his face, it kind of squares off into like a squarish sideburn. And I'm positive that's him. That's Luke Newton. I have not spotted him many other places, but this is definitely Luke Newton.
I do kind of see it now.
The height of his hair is also very similar to the season 3 announcement video,
which we will be getting to very soon. We've got a potential second Colin sighting.
We will share these photos and you could debate amongst yourselves.
But something that struck me looking back at these pictures is the clothing is really romantic.
Yeah.
The men have the billowy sleeves with the waistcoats. Like they're walking around with their sleeves blowing in the wind. And the ladies are in a lot of like tulle and chiffon rather than like the tighter silks. And I'm fully clowning here, I'm sure of it, but I'm convinced that this is like the introduction to the season as being romance.
Yes.
Because I'm not a fashionista, but my mum talks a lot about like the different styles. And one of the kind of vibes of dressing you can have is like romance, which is like the thrills, the soft fabrics, the billowy looks. That's like the romantic fashion. And I am convinced that this is like that as an introduction to the season. Like, so Nicola said that she looked at the 3 seasons. Season 1 was about passion, 2 about longing, and season 3 I think it's romance all the way. It's just so romantic.
Because we were talking about this in our season 2 recap, right? We were talking about how each season has a different tone to it.
Yeah.
We said that season 1 has a grittiness to it, whereas season 2 has a lighter, more vibrant, stronger tones, which I suppose the tones match the personalities of the 2 leads, of Kate and Anthony. And we've been like trying to figure out what the tone and the feel of season 3 is going to be. And I think this is why it was such a beautiful leak to start on as the beginning of filming, because we were at the Featherington Ball last week or whenever it was. We saw how, you know, there's often a theme to the balls and then everyone has to go along with it. So everyone had to dress in bright citrus. But to go from that vibrancy to this romantic softness, and I think you can see Francesca is also in that like soft lilac colour as well.
Yeah.
It's like you say, it's really setting the tone for everything. And I hope that Pen walks in and she's in this palette, or maybe she'll be contrasting against the palette.
Yeah, she might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was this soft, romantic, big, dramatic scale that I think we were all so taken by in these leaks.
I want to add a little bit of something to Veg's. I think it is going to be all about romance, but I also think a big theme is going to be acceptance.
Yes, an identity.
Yeah. And romantic love.
Romance. That's not the only people that drew our attention. If we look back, we think we can see a new season 3 actress, Katie Devling, who is playing a confidential role name. We think she was spotted on set. And then there's another extra who is dressed in a really interesting outfit that's always caught my eye. So it's like a pale outfit, almost military, but not really quite. And it has these red and gold embellishments. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like it before. And he really stood out. And this might just be my ultimate clowning, but could it be a Michael sighting? Now, Veg, you think you spotted both John and Michael later on in filming. I mean, we'll get there. And we think that I definitely spotted John near the end of filming. But could we have an early Michael on set here? We know that Francesca's storyline is going to be set up. And again, when we say we know things in these episodes, we mean we're clowning and we don't know for certain.
That John scene that you got always gives me butterflies, so I can't wait to talk about it.
We will get there, but we definitely think we've got some Sterling boys in the mix. And this extra, it could just be an extra, but I don't know, there's something to it. So we've got our setup. We know the scale, we know the colour palettes and everything like that. And we know this is going to be in episode 1 or 2. But a question for you. What episode do you think this is? Do you think this is our first opening ball of the season? Just because it's the first one that we think was filmed doesn't mean it's the first that's going to appear, but do you think it is? As we know, Lady Danbury always has the first ball of the season. Do you think this is a Lady Danbury ball?
Because the first ball of the season is traditionally hosted by Lady Danbury, it's possible that this could be the Danbury ball. If you recall from season 2 as well, Lady Danbury mentions that she had to appropriate a conservatory for the first ball of the season. This could be a new location that they've had her use in the show, specifically one with a very Grecian Polin theme to it to fit the theme of their season. This could also be Violet's ball and maybe the second ball of the season. Some fans believe the purple color scheme is supposed to convey first love, as we've seen it being used in previous seasons. Others believe the purple may be a hint that this is Violet's birthday ball, which occurs at the beginning of Romancing Mr. Bridgerton and near the start of the social season.
But I should point out that you could also see 2 Bridgerton carriages on set.
Oh, that's true. That actually makes way more sense about why they would have the Bridgerton footmen in the livery if they just arrived there.
If you have a look, you can see that they have the light, like the bluey, purpley carriage that Violet uses with the younger children. So that was on set. And then we had the black carriage that Anthony and now Kate use. Colin's dark blue carriage is nowhere in sight. And we suspect the dark blue carriage might be the carriage in question. And watch out for future episodes because that is going to come back in a big way. But there were also other carriages on set suggesting they were filming members of the town arriving at the ball. But there was one yellow carriage, which is particularly interesting. And again, keep an eye on that one because that might reappear as well.
Based on what Obbs pointed out about the Bridgerton carriages, it seems as though the Bridgertons had to travel to get to this ball.
Yeah.
So it could be Lady Danbury's ball or perhaps a ball from episode 2, one where Colin is trying to help Penn find a husband.
But possibly an unguarded Penn. Do you think she's going to walk into this gorgeously paletted, soft, romantic ball dressed in head to toe yellow? Look, I'm happy for her to be back in yellow. We've said this. So it could be the first ball of the season. It could be someone else's entirely. Lecky, you mentioned that it could be Violet's birthday ball. And I really like this. And I think we thought it because the colour palette is arguably violet. It could also be lilac for first love, but it could be Violet. Is Lady Danbury waiting inside with a birthday hat for Violet to make it up to her about,
God.
But like you say, Lecky, in Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, Violet does have a birthday ball at the beginning, and that is where Penn and Colin reconnect. So could this be a little way to honour the book, as had been promised? Overall, I think we were so excited to see this ball, and we were excited to see the scale of it. And it was our first little filming leaks.
A final point about Osterley is that it was filmed during a pretty extreme heat wave.
Do you remember this, Veg?
Oh my God. Greenwich Park was a beach.
It was terrible.
It was over 40.3 degrees Celsius, which is 104.5 degrees Fahrenheit.
And we don't have aircon in our country.
Yeah, crazy. And still production went on, filming in incredibly difficult conditions, especially considering the lighting that they have to use. And they were using lighting outside too. And the reflectors as well, because they use reflectors to light up their faces from below. And, the heavy costuming and the makeup and the wigs. They were also still using COVID protocols, just to give an idea of how challenging that entire process was at the beginning of filming.
I genuinely don't know how they filmed it. I couldn't even move, let alone stand under Regency layers of clothing.
Yeah.
So there we go, our first ever look at season 3. We were still reeling from Osterley. We were still fawning over that beautiful purple set and the blurry Colin that definitely was Colin, Veg. And we were mourning the lack of Penn when it happened. It was a day that changed a fandom forever and would live in infamy in all of our hearts and souls. July 20th, 2022. Started off like a day like any other. It was actually really still fucking hot, wasn't it, Veg, to be honest?
Yeah.
And then Nick posted on Instagram, I think we talked about this in our last episode, about how out of nowhere Nicola posted a blank lilac story with a tiny little bee buzzing in the corner, and at the time we thought it was just like a little hello to everyone, and we were so excited just to get that, but we had no idea that it was a warning sign and that Nick was trying to reach out and warn us that we were not about to receive a crumb, a deluge of freshly baked loaves that were going to be thrown at our heads, because a few hours later it happened. What did we get, Lecky?
So that's when we got the season 3 announcement video straight from set showing that filming was well and truly underway.
Oh, Oh, this was a good one.
So many familiar faces appeared in the season 3 announcement video, including the actors who play Cressida, Will, and Alice, suggesting they may play a fairly significant role in Polin's season. While Johnny Bailey was in the video, Simone Ashley was not, but they posted a photo from set together a few days later, so we're confident that Kate also plays a role early on in these first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Upon reviewing the footage further, we also noticed some new names on the trailers in the background for several new characters that will be appearing in this season, including Sita Malhotra, who we now know will be played by Benita Sandhu, and Miss Stowell, who I suspect will be played by Kitty Devlin, and that Ovs just mentioned her. Also, amusingly, because of how blurry the trailers were when we initially zoomed in, for a very long while we thought Miss Malhotra was Miss Malmorta, which I think is just a hilariously sinister name for a debutante.
So listeners, you know this video. It's burned into everyone's mind. It was incredible. So this was the video taken straight from set where Jonathan Bailey started by using the hand gesture that we saw at the end of 208 to signify that season 2 was over and we were moving into season 3. And it took us through all the cast. Most of them were not in costume, but most of them were in full hair and makeup. And we saw both of Penelope's sisters were there. We had Queen Charlotte, of course, Lady Danbury. How could we have a season without her? We had all the Bridgerton siblings, bar Daphne. And then it cut from Martin Mongbay over to Luke Newton, who opened the door to the carriage. Can you believe it? We had a fucking live carriage right in our faces to reveal Nicola Coughlan inside, who announced that season 3 filming had officially begun. And she said to Luke, "You coming in?" And Luke replied, "Let's go." He got into the carriage. We all collapsed onto the floor on the spot. We screamed and we sobbed. But this time, for a rare time, it was with absolute joy. Now these are not blurs. These are in beautiful high definition quality. How are they looking, Veg?
So yeah, the hair and makeup was the first proper glimpse of the season 3 styling, or glow up, as we often refer to it. Newt's hair was clipped back, but you could kind of see the fullness of it. And it was definitely Pirate Colin getting ready to sail the high seas. Nick's hair had those soft little wispy curls on her head that we've grown to love. And her makeup as well, I think, was what kind of impressed me especially. Like, it wasn't like she didn't have good makeup before, because all the characters have always looked great, but something about it just made her look immediately so much more like grown up.
Do you know, Kat Quinn has a really good video on this.
She does, yeah.
She talked about how in season 1 and season 2, Penelope was made to look quite young.
Yeah.
And we saw her in season 2. She did go on a makeup and hair and style journey because Penelope's trying to express herself and break out of her family's control. And she had to do that in quite small ways, as you so faithfully tracked during season 2. And so she couldn't undergo this drastic transformation that we're going to see her go through in season 3, because that just wasn't the space that she was able to occupy in season 2.
Yeah.
And Kat Quinn has said that, like, if we take her look at the Hearts and Flowers ball, super beautiful, like gorgeous hairstyling, but her makeup, as Kat describes, is quite doe-eyed, I think is the phrase she uses, and it's quite young. And whereas here, it's a lot more mature. It's her stepping into being a woman.
Yeah, the eye makeup adds to that as well, because it sweeps out the side.
It's like a bit more sultry. It's a bit more grown up.
Yeah, for sure. And Nick has said as well that they're more like adults here, whereas they were kids before. And Luke kind of looks tan. Some of that could be to look good under the stage lighting, but he has just been in France, Spain and Italy. So,
as we now know, we didn't know at the time.
Yeah. So I imagine this is part of the ball that we were just speaking about.
Yeah, we do think it was Osterley.
Yeah, and I also love that it looks like, if this is a ball, it looks like Alice and Will got an invite, because
Which is a good point.
they got the invite, right? That's great news.
Right, so Lecky, does this add weight to your theory that this is a Bridgerton ball or a Bridgerton focus celebration? Because who else in the ton is going to invite Will and Alice, if not a Bridgerton?
I was very convinced that this was like a Violet's birthday party or a Bridgerton ball.
I still think it's Violet's birthday.
I really like the idea of it being Violet's birthday party, just because of the parallels to the book and that being their first, reunion in that book.
There's also theories that it could be Kate's first ball as Viscountess. But I think the only reason we didn't think of that is because the Bridgertons go to the ball as guests, because the carriages are there.
Yeah, I was completely convinced it was a Violet ball until you said that thing about the carriages, and I was like, why would their carriages...
But Violet would go to her own birthday party. Like, Violet would be the guest of honour at her own birthday party. So I think it's a Violet birthday.
If Kate threw it? I would just say that we're pretty confident based on the exterior of this season 3 announcement video that this
And
was...
the heat.
And because of the heat?
The heat.
From the season 3 announcement video?
Yeah, because it was a heat wave, babe.
But how can you tell that from this season 3 announcement video? Just because there's a sun?
Oh, have you been to England? Do you know how rare a phenomena that is? Also, I think Claudia Jessie's hair matches the set leaks versus the announcement video.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
If you
point.
look.
But yeah, we are pretty confident that the season 3 announcement video was filmed at Austerley. So these could be ball looks that we're discussing and that we see in the video.
Exactly. This was our first official glimpse of Pen and Colin, albeit out of costume. Just a quick note that there's a lot of conversation about a glow-up of Pen and Colin. I mean, this is something that Nicola had teased that we were going to see for both characters. But I think just to clarify what we mean when we're talking about a glow-up for Pen and Colin, and that's very much about their storytelling and the way that they're moving forward.
Right.
So I think we know that Colin and Pen are both characters who've really struggled to find themselves and then crucially express their place in the world. I think Penelope has a good idea of who she is inside, but she struggles to put that out into society. And I think Colin doesn't really know how to reconcile his place in society with who he is inside. So,
Or even in his family.
but yeah, I think he really struggles within being a Bridgerton, but one of many, especially the middle child. So we were really paying close attention at this point to see the changes in Pen and Colin's style, but quite for a specific reason. So I think with Penelope, we know she has confidence as Lady Whistledown, but as we were saying, she struggles to translate this into her in-person interactions. And we saw such a huge growth from 101 to 208. And her styling has had a lot to do with the control of Portia that she's had on her life and Penelope's attempts to really break free from that and be her own person. And she has her own voice, but figuring out how to use her own voice. And so I think for Penelope, her journey that we're going to see throughout season 3 in terms of styling and costuming is more about her finding the confidence to be herself in society and to express herself in society and to find the freedom that she spoke of in the purpose scene. So with things like hair and her makeup and her costuming, it's all about us seeing Penelope the way she wants to be and the Penelope that she wants to be in society.
She also wants to be seen as, you know, a romantic prospect.
Yes.
So that's part of maybe why we see so much romance in her looks and in the leaks we get later.
Yeah, that the floatiness, because Nicola talked before this about how it wasn't just the colour palette that was changing, it was the fabric that was changing and the floatiness. And Penelope really figuring out who she is. And for Colin, that's something that he's really struggled with. We saw that especially in season 2. He's the true middle child of the Bridgertons and he's found it hard to distinguish himself, find his purpose. And he's also been caught between being seen by a child by his family whilst wanting to be taken seriously as a man. That massively influenced his season 1 storyline with Marina. It became very apparent in season 2 how he was struggling to get out of that as well. And I think his costuming and styling journey has reflected this. Veg, you covered it quite a lot across both seasons, haven't you? That at times he has similarities in his costuming with Anthony and Benedict, but then he was often paralleled with Gregory, quite unfortunately for him. And then season 2, he was in his baby blues, again, caught between not quite being an adult. So for season 3, the glow up for Colin is about him finding his true self as well and being confident within himself as a Bridgerton, but also as his own person. And hopefully when we get more promo, we'll get more clues. I think Colin's costuming journey and styling journey is super interesting throughout what we know so far, because we're going to see later in this episode our first full in costume, and it was so striking and so memorable. And then in future Crumbs episodes, we'll see how other leaks came out, or, you know, the Tudum stills as well came out. And it looks like his journey is going to be slightly different. And I think the version we're going to talk about here is about swagger.
Yes.
I think you can almost see that in the announcement video, is that idea of swagger, which we hadn't quite learned about just yet. But all told, this video was an incredible moment in the fandom. We were all so excited. The carriage was the pièce de résistance. It was our first big confirmation that we were not only getting the carriage, but that also production knew how iconic the scene was for fans and that they were really going to play with that. And we haven't seen any promo yet, but I think we all hope that carriages play a big part. But was the day through with us? No, it was not, because then the deadline article hit. And first up, we had the announcement of 3 new cast members who were joining for season 3 as major characters. So we welcome James Foon, Sam Phillips, and Daniel Francis. Who's up first? Beans, my darling Beans.
Yeah.
Can you introduce us to the lovely James Foon and who he will be playing in season 3?
Yeah, so James Foon plays Harry Dankworth, and his bio reads, "What he lacks in wit and intelligence, he more than makes up for with serious good looks." We all quickly seemed... No, we did not. I have said from the start that he was for Prudence.
You did call it.
Yes, I did. Okay, so everybody except for me quickly seemed to agree that Dankworth was likely a suitor for Penn, but more of a comedy choice that quickly would prove not to last because he lacks wit and intelligence. Two things we know are Miss Penelope likes to find in a man. However, I, Beans, need to defend my honor because I have never, not once, thought that Dankworth was ever going to be for Penn.
Don't you think they're even going to have like the tiniest moment?
Nope, never.
You're not even entertaining that?
Ever. I've been debbling all the way because...
She could have multiple. You've got two on the go, babe.
Yeah, but she's going to have debbling in Colin.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him, sorry.
So listen, the reason why, and we'll get into it later after whoever's next reads about debbling, but I just thought that we know that Portia's probably going to focus on Prudence, and Prudence is probably going to be with someone who's very similar to her personality. Yeah. And I thought that Dankworth fit Prudence's...
They're like little jigsaw pieces, aren't they?
Temperament more. Yeah. So I've been Prudence since day one.
We're all on board with you now.
Yeah, we all hopped aboard the Prudence train later, but I will say when we first read this casting announcement, I thought all these suitors were for Penn.
We did at first think everyone was for Penn, and I think we've changed since then.
I made many crack videos about this.
For a long time, we joked that he was Captain Harry Dankworth. That has absolutely no basis in reality.
Yes, that is such a missed opportunity, I have to say, because the Wentworth, Dankworth, it should have been Captain Dankworth.
Dankworth, that would have been hilarious.
Also, he was noted for his surname, and we all had a lot of fun. Because this is what we were like, imagine Colin having to be like, she could be Penelope Dankworth.
Yes, we all thought Colin would be like, she can't be a Dankworth.
Sorry to anybody whose surname is Dankworth.
It's gonna be Prudence Dankworth.
Prudence Dankworth is just, that's perfect.
And let me tell you guys, you were talking about my sixth sense, and I have not been proven wrong about this point in particular.
Well, stay tuned because you did call it out from the beginning, and everything we got since then has proven it. But it's not just about our lovely Harry Dankworth. Lecky, can you show us our next leading man?
So Sam Phillips will play Lord Debling, who is described as a genial lord with unusual interests. But with wealth and a noble title to back up his eccentricities, he'll have no shortage of interest from young ladies this season. So we have had a lot of fun spiraling about his unusual interests, which have ranged from everything from imagining him to be a Bluebeard-esque serial killer, a taxidermist, and more commonly a bug collector.
Juggling.
Something about the idea of Colin's rival collecting things like butterflies seems fitting.
That was another Beans addition, bitch.
But from his character description, we think he's set up to be the most serious contender for Penn's affections as far as any potential suitors go. He has a title and wealth which put him a step above Colin and may cause Colin to doubt whether he can measure up, as well as a genial personality that Penn might find appealing since she's looking to escape from a home with Portia and Prudence.
And the other thing that was noted about our lovely Lord Debling, beyond the fact that we still don't know his first name, and this drives me insane because I'm desperate to know what his first name is that the focus on him having unusual interests made it sound like he would be occupied with other things. And as we'll see from the synopsis,
oh, yes, exactly.
It felt like that would be another reason why Penelope might be drawn to Lord Debling, because she wanted someone who wasn't going to pay much attention to her, but wasn't going to cause her too much hassle.
Yes.
I want a scene so desperately where they go to his country house and like he's taking them on a talk. He's a bug collector. You cannot convince me he's not a bug collector.
Yes.
I will not hear anything.
Yeah.
If this is not how it happens, I will demand a reshoot is what's going to happen.
I'm sorry, everyone. I am so sorry that I have done my bugling propaganda to you, but I'm so glad you're on my side.
I'm a penling, you know I do. But I want a scene where he's showing Penn like a pinned up butterfly with a dead bee stuck through it.
Yeah.
Like stuck next to it. And she's like, I can't do this. But there we have our lovely Lord Debling. So that leaves one man. Veg, who have you got for us?
Oh boy, I have a man for you. So Daniel Francis plays Marcus Anderson, who is described as a charismatic presence who lights up any room he enters, attracting the notice of certain matriarchs and the ire of others.
Dun, dun, dun.
So this did cause quite a stir at the time, while people sort of wondered what this link was to the matriarchs. And I guess it's paying more to the older members of the Ton. And early on even, there were theories that this man could be a relative of Lady Danbury.
One of the reasons was that Adjua Ando had talked about a figure from her past coming back in season 3. And I think this was the connection, was this idea of certain matriarchs. What we should also add is that this was a pre-Queen Charlotte world. So what we think now has been shaped by that.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Early on, there was a user on the subreddit called SadResist22, and they pointed out that there's a character in a different Julia Quinn series about the Smythe Smiths, Just Like Heaven, called Marcus Holroyd. So Marcus Holroyd, who is Lady Danbury's great-great-nephew. So there is a Marcus who's related to Lady Danbury. And so there was that early speculation. And then later on, when we got Queen Charlotte, some speculated, could this be payback? You bang my dad, I bang your great-great-nephew. Like, could this be maybe even a son?
It could be.
Could this be the dark sex plot line of Christmas 2020?
Please don't put into the world that this is Violet's half-brother.
No, I'm not. There is a very crackpot theory, which I'm sorry, I'm not buying, that maybe this is Lady Danbury and Lord Ledger's illegitimate child.
No, that was not my crack theory. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
He could potentially be the love interest because now we know Violet has announced her intentions to plough.
Oh, you used the word plough.
I have. Could she? Like, this could be perfect. Maybe he attracts the ire of her and it's enemies to lovers.
Yeah, so I think we touched on this in the To Doom Part 2 episode, where I think that, Marcus, it may be related to Lady Danbury, and for some reason he enters some sort of romantic relationship with Violet, or maybe explores the idea, and Lady Danbury is not happy about it. Whether Violet knows about that connection at the start, who knows? But I think that the ire will be Lady Danbury's, and the attention he attracts maybe from Violet.
My crack theory was that Portia and Violet would fight over Marcus.
Well, this was
That's true. We did discuss that for comedy purposes.
In a pre-Queen Charlotte world, could it have been a grove and a square?
Ooh.
I do like that idea. So I think we've discussed what we initially thought about the men. I think at first we were like, they must all be for Penelope. And then since then we've reeled back and we've refined our thoughts. We definitely think that Marcus Anderson is to do with Lady Danbury's storyline and potentially Violet's. And we think that Dankworth and Debling are to do with the Featheringtons in some capacity. And accompanying this announcement was a little video from Shondaland, which looks like it was filmed at a ball. You can see on the clapperboard, it says 302. It's a continuation veg of what you were saying about this really romantic, beautiful colouring. And there is this gorgeous blue dress in front that everyone thought might be Penelope's, but I don't think it is Penelope's dress.
And as Obs mentioned, if you look closely, you can also see that the clapperboard says 302, so we know that this was taken from episode 2. The colours of the dresses also seem to match the soft blue, purple, and lilac color scheme that we saw in the leaks from Australia, perhaps a further clue that the Australia ball occurs in episode 2.
And we go on to spot both Dankworth and Marcus in later filming leaks, which we will cover in future episodes. But for now, they eluded us, but we were incredibly excited, if surprised, to welcome new cast members to the show. But although the casting information was exciting, we barely had time to recover from it because, well, we thought the day couldn't get more insane. What else did we get? Because attached to the deadline casting announcement was the Rosetta Stone of all Season 3 crumbs, the Season 3 official synopsis, and my, did this ruffle some feathers. And by ruffle feathers, I mean it completely shook up everything we thought we knew about the season, everything we thought we were expecting for the season. It came completely out of left field. Lecky, as a quick reminder, you were there at the time. What was the general expectation for Season 3 for Polin?
We all thought that Colin would return home, having already realized that he was in love with Penelope. And we were all convinced that Fife, for some reason, was going to be his rival for the season.
Like the number one contender.
And that the Featherington inheritance might be a big plot point, that Penn might attract interest from people who wanted to inherit the Featherington estate and title, the barony.
So we all had this daydream that was based on absolutely nothing in our heads, and then we got the synopsis. Now, Guys, can you help me out here? I'm pretty sure I could recite these words in my grave. They've been so burnt deeply into my soul at this point. Lecky, can you kick us off? Season 3 synopsis.
Season 3 finds Penelope Featherington as she's finally given up her crush on Colin Bridgerton after hearing him disparage her to his friends last season. Instead, she's focusing on finding a husband who will respect her independence so she may continue her double life as Lady Whistledown away from her mother and sisters. Due to her lack of confidence, however, her search doesn't go so well.
Meanwhile, Colin is back from his summer travels with a new look and major swagger. He is disheartened to learn that Penelope, the one person who always appreciated him as he was, is giving him the cold shoulder. Eager to win back her friendship, Colin helps Penelope boost her confidence so as to attract the perfect husband. But when his lessons start working a little too well, Colin is faced with figuring out what his true feelings for his friend really are.
And complicating matters for Penelope is her rift with Eloise, who has found a new friend in a very unlikely place, while Penelope's growing presence in the Ton makes it all the more difficult to keep her Lady Whistledown alter ego a secret.
Wow, that was quite a bombshell. Do you remember it dropping?
I read it and I was like, wait, is this real? I was like, huh? Why have we got this?
We weren't expecting it either, and it came
No.
back. I tell you now, the overall reaction at the time was
Confusion.
everyone was very confused.
Yes.
Because we'd been told it was going to be like Romancing Mr. Bridgerton.
Yes.
And then everyone read it and was like, that's not Romancing Mr. Bridgerton.
It seemed like such a departure from Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, at least at first. But, just after a few hours, I got excited by the new details they gave us.
My very first reaction to reading it, I literally burst out laughing because I was like, Colin, you numpty. I could see it perfectly. But like instantly, I was like, oh, I see how he's going to get himself into this. He's going to be so desperate to get back in her good graces.
Yeah.
That he's going to talk himself into any circle he can. Right. And he's going to be like, I'll do it. I've got a great idea. And I just could immediately see the comedy because we'd already been told that there was comedy.
Rom-com vibes. They specified rom-com vibes.
And I think that's something we'd struggled to reconcile. We'd really struggled with the rom-com elements and how that was going to be in their story. And then this came through. And I think it really became quite apparent.
Yeah, exactly.
And what we also learned from the synopsis was that Penelope had given up her crush on Colin. A quick question for you on that. Do you think that Penelope has given up on Colin in terms of she thinks that she no longer loves him? She's trying to tell herself that she no longer loves him. Or is she just accepting that they're never going to be together and just trying to move on from being with him?
Well, from personal experience of having an unrequited love, I think there was a period of time where Tuba Boy, really hurt my feelings, so I was determined to find a new crush. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna find somebody who makes me feel so much better than this guy, whatever. And I had a crush on somebody else for about a month, and then I went back to Tuba Boy because I couldn't quit him. So.
Sometimes that contrast reminds you, doesn't it? Sometimes the contrast of trying to move on and trying to be with someone else slaps you in the face because you're like, oh my god, I don't want to be with anyone else.
Right. So I think that Pen's probably going to struggle a little bit with that, especially the closer that they get, because I think she doesn't necessarily want to end their friendship, but I think she knows that if she continues to pine after Colin, she doesn't know if it'll ever happen, especially after what he said.
She's only going to get hurt by it.
Yeah, so she's saving herself. Really, but I don't think that means that she likes him any less.
Because her love for him goes so bone deep.
Yeah.
And it's such an integral part of that. I don't think you can move on from that so quick. I mean, it's been 8 months, it's been a long time, but I think she might be putting up on a facade of, I'm fine, I've moved on, I'm colder, I'm leaning more into the Lady Whistledown of being cold and collected, whereas actually she's quite an emotional person at core. So we've seen that she's moved on from him and that her focus is now actively finding a husband, which is a big departure from the books, but she's going out and she's finding a husband. It's like at the end of 208 where we saw Pen's pain turn into a moment of action, and that's what she's going to be doing here in season 3. She's going to be changing her life, and she's finding someone who respects her independence because she has every intention of carrying on Lady Whistledown to get her away from her family, but due to a lack of confidence, her search doesn't go too well. In some sources, I think it's the Shondaland one, the phrase is fail spectacularly, which I think we're all very excited to see.
No, because that was what struck me about this synopsis when I first saw it. You know me, I want Penelope to just have a lovely time.
And to soar.
So when it was suggested that it's not going to go well for her initially, I was like, oh no, she doesn't need more embarrassment.
It's going to be painful because Colin's going to see it, isn't he? He's going to be there watching the whole fucking thing.
But so this kind of confirmed that there would be some sort of transformation, whether visual or not, mid-season.
Yeah.
Or not initially from the start, so she wouldn't walk in newly confident and with her own style that she developed, she still had that to come. So that was sort of confirmed with this.
Speaking of confidence, the synopsis also introduces the question of Colin's confidence. It's stated that Colin is disheartened to learn that Penelope, the one person who always appreciated him as he was, is giving him the cold shoulder, which reinforces the idea that Penn sees the real Colin and also suggests that A, Colin might be seen differently by people in the town when he arrives home in season 3, possibly again acting like the popular charmer that we heard about in season 1 and in the books, and that B, perhaps like in the books, he might not actually like being perceived that way.
But I think a big question for us is the swagger Colin the real Colin, or is that part of the journey that he's going to go on from episode 1 to episode 8? And I think the jury is still out. Yeah. And we also learned that Colin had been away travelling again, something we didn't really have any knowledge of before in season 2, that he was going to go away again. And we got that word which haunts my dreams. Swagger.
I've had a lot of fun with this word in crack edits, but I will say I was kind of excited of the idea of Colin swagger because I feel like it suggests that we'll see that charming flirt that he claimed to be in season 1 before, Marina came into his life. So I feel like, we'll see a return of the Colin who is the charming flirt and maybe using those skills with Penelope at some point. And I also just kind of liked the idea, after some thought of Penn being pursued by other suitors or getting attention from other men, because it told me that Penn's line from 201 really was foreshadowing. I really think there will be a scene where Colin is forced to watch her dance with someone else and will realize just how much he cares for her during that scene.
And you know why he's going to do that? Because this clown is going to give Penelope lessons in how to attract other men. This is something that struck so hard with everyone. Everyone was like, surely he's not going to be that blind. But alas, he is. He is going to offer to tutor her in the ways of finding the perfect husband. Hence, romancing Mr. Bridgerton. He is literally going to teach Penelope how to romance himself. Well done on that one, Colin. And then the famous line, when his lessons start working a little too well, he has to figure out what his true feelings for his friend are. So lots of Polin drama. But then we find out a little bit more about how Penelope is doing on with Eloise, and we find that Eloise has a new friend in a very unlikely place. Beans, what is your long-standing theory?
My long-standing theory is that she becomes friends with Cressida.
Okay, we've been through this before. It's the phrasing, very unlikely place. What's the very unlikely place?
In my original comments on that Reddit post, I apparently suspected that Eloise's unlikely friend would be her maid, aka Sophie.
I don't even really know who she is.
So we'll see how that goes.
Always on the Sophie watch.
Well, unlikely place, I feel like maybe at a ball, because Eloise fucking hates balls.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe she can see like Penn struggling or whatever, and then Cressida says something that actually makes her laugh. It's really cruel, but it's like they're both hurt. They're both still upset.
That's a really interesting point, because what if Cressida also hates balls just because she's had such little success in them and in attracting men? Maybe they would bond over that.
And we know that Cressida's tried to be friends with Eloise before.
Exactly.
But it's Penelope that she has disdain for. She's got nothing against Eloise.
Yeah.
She's got everything against Penelope. So it's like, you've ditched her, come hang out with us. Okay, so you're still on the Cressida train. To be honest, I don't think any of us have a better suggestion yet, unless it's Lady Tilly Arnold who'll be pairing in another block.
Yeah. God, or her maid. I think that the maid is a good contender as well. But yeah, I think Cressida would be a good choice. Or it could be one of the other new characters that have not yet been announced, but that we know are there.
Absolutely. And the other thing we found out from the synopsis is that Penn is going to have a growing presence in the ton. So that's stepping out into the light. Yep. But the problem that she's going to have is that finding her place in society is going to contrast directly with her ability to keep Lady Whistledown a secret. So Lady Whistledown coming in as a key part of the season there.
That kind of makes me think a little bit where it says that she like fails spectacularly. I feel like maybe that's partially in Penn's head.
Yeah.
And in fact that she becomes appealing to quite a few people because of her wit or whatever, and people start to pay attention to her more. Specifically, obviously, Colin and Lord Debling. Her growing presence in the ton means that she is going to be like noticed by more people.
Possibly the
not
Queen.
Just be a wallflower. Oh yeah, that too.
Possibly the Emerald of the season.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that made people a little bit unsure about the synopsis, just before we wrap up with it, is it's the Pygmalion of it. as well.
Yeah.
I think people worried that Colin was going to take Penelope and mold her into what he wanted her to be.
Yeah.
But I think what's actually going to happen is that we see how Penelope is with Colin. She's able to be her true self. And I think Colin is going to encourage her to be herself, how she is with him.
Yeah.
You know, with the added elements of her discovering her sexuality and having more confidence within herself and within speaking to other people that she would normally speak to. But I think Colin is going to really bring out herself and get her to be her witty self with other people, which he's going to fucking hate when she is. You know, the trading the barbs, if she's there with Lord Debling trading barbs, that's not her changing who she is. It's just her finding the ability to be her actual self with other people. So that was a synopsis. What a day. And I can't believe there ever was a time without the word swagger in our lives. Just a couple of other bits and pieces that we found out at the same time. So on that day, Lizzie Talbot, the intimacy coordinator, tweeted fans and vapors at the ready, referring to the emojis that she was using, and said season 3 is going to be hot. And although we didn't have any actual confirmation, let alone filming leaks, we suspect they may have been filming at Basildon Park, aka the scene of Featherington Ball from recent episodes, possibly a trip to the gardens, midnight rendezvous, Colin, possibly the location was used something else altogether. Other little bits and pieces, Nicola posted about her Bridgerton, and hilariously fans tried to figure out if we could tell anything about the cut of Penelope's dresses in season 3. Like, what's her style going to be from the burn you've got? And then on the same day, Luke Newton popped up on social media to share a photo from the inside of his trailer, a black and white mirror shot nonetheless, of...
It was of a shirt. So hanging in his wardrobe appears to be, well, it was a shirt, we know that much.
Yeah, we can confirm there was a shirt.
But it's a white shirt, sadly not as billowy as the one in the fencing scene. No cravat in sight, which, you know, that's actually a good thing. Great day for the Free the Net campaign, but not so much for the Release the Arms collective, if you guys are out there. You can also see some shoes in the bottom right. They're not pirate boot, but I was going to say they're smart, so he's dressing up, but
They're a bit booty.
they always wear those shoes. No one's wearing Converse in Regency
Where are the
times.
Crocs?
Oh yeah, well yeah, Pen does wear Crocs, doesn't she? But yeah, as I said before, I'm doing a lot with a little here. We saw some shoes, we saw a white shirt. We'd be surprised if he didn't wear either of those items in season 3, to be honest, but nice to see them. Thanks for that, Luke.
And speaking of little costuming hints, on the 4th of August, our quickly very loved Lord Debling, Sam Phillips, posted a little tease on Instagram stories saying, I just had my first costume fitting for Bridgerton and I'm very excited to share Lord Debling with you. Not in a sexy way, maybe a bit in a sexy way.
Again, maybe hinting that he is the
other suitor.
the main rival for Pence Affections.
I think he is. And this really only occurred to me when we were compiling these crumbs. But if Sam Phillips was only having his first costume fitting in August, does this mean that he's not at the Osterley ball that we suspect could be one of the first balls of the season? So do the suitors or Debling only come into play in episode 2 or 3 post Pen glow-ups?
His late arrival makes sense to me because we need to see Pen crash and burn, as the synopsis says originally. She's going to try to attract suitors. She's going to fail.
Spectacularly.
It would make more sense for him to come in after she's already failed, after she's already received some confidence boosting lessons from Colin, so that she finally has some success with him, and that's when Colin goes, fuck, you know? So I feel like it makes sense for him to come in just a little later into the season, maybe a couple balls in.
And to not have any preconceived ideas to who Penelope is and who Penelope has been in society. That he doesn't know she's been the wallflower.
Yes, he's an outsider, and he hasn't seen her fail with other men.
And what we do know about Sam Phillips is that his spotlight listing was only being under the direction of Trisha Brock and Andrew Wan, so director of Block 1 and Block 3. It could be wrong, but it could mean that Debling is only in the show up until episode 4 at the latest. This is a retraction because we've mentioned our Debling theories in the past, and there was a point where we believed that Lord Debling was only going to be in Block 1 and Block 3, but we're retracting that because we had the directors wrong way around. Andrew Arn is directing episodes 3 and 4. So Lord Debling is possibly going to disappear after episode 4. And that's the other thing to say about the synopsis. People panicked because they thought that this was going to be the whole season, was going to be shaped by this suitor plotline, these lessons. We've seen it before, haven't we, Beans, in season 1 and season 2, that the synopsis usually only covers the first 2-3 episodes of the season.
No, first 2.
The first 2, so even smaller.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're giving a lot away, but it's really covering a very short period of time. So the suitor plotline, which feels like it's going to be a huge thing, could actually be wrapped up pretty quickly.
Before, we were spiraling over the idea that he might come back for the carriage reveal and that he might be understanding of Lady Whistledown, I think is what Beans was thinking.
Yes.
But if we think that Colin finds out at the end of episode 4, and maybe that's like the very beginning beginning of the carriage sequence, or it's leading there for episode 5, that makes sense to me that Devlin would disappear as a suitor, as a rival
he'd bow
in
out.
episode 4.
Yeah, the other thing is, though, with those pages, he could totally be in the season in other episodes.
Yeah, it could be completely wrong. Although he wasn't spotted at the wedding is the other thing.
Well, I don't think he'd be at the wedding.
Yeah, because if he is the main rival.
Yeah.
So some Devlin crumbs there, which we will continue to track. But then in early August, guys, this is what we're actually here for. Our lives were changed yet again for the better. It's not always for the better, but for the better by another set of filming leaks. I often think back to these particular filming leaks and I think I can't imagine this. We wouldn't have been friends, I don't think, without them.
This is when we became friends, yeah.
This when we became friends. I can't imagine the fandom, like so much of the in-joke and the fun that we've had have all come from these leaks.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think we would have made it through the dark days had we not got them, because getting the carriage kids is time to go to Greenwich. Veg, you're our eyes on the ground, seeing as though I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, I guess I can start the story. So, before they even launched, picture me.
A baby veg.
It was hot. There it was. I was on a little run up by Ranger's house and I saw it, the little yellow square. So, in the UK, and I know this from my Sherlock days, when they when they close somewhere for filming that's public, they have to put up a sign if they're like closing any parking spaces. So there was a sign up that said, in a week's time, these parking spaces will be unavailable. Reason? Filming. And I was like, oh my God, it's Bridgerton. I'd watched them film some of season 2.
Mm-hmm. The fencing scenes, happy memories.
Yeah, and they definitely weren't as strict with the blocking out the cameras. But yeah, they put up the sign saying they were coming to the Ranger's house. So on the 26th of July, I posted breaking the news that they were filming at Ranger's house.
So we knew that they were going to be filming exteriors at the Bridgerton house, but they were also setting up a little further down the road at the Old Royal Naval College.
So Old Royal Naval College is in the middle of Greenwich. It's actually been used in Bridgerton before. They usually film a lot of establishing shots.
Yeah.
They film tons of people walking around. They do a market scene there. They actually did a couple market scenes at Old Royal Naval College this season, which we'll get into in a later episode. And then there's also a chapel there that may have been used as well.
That chapel is definitely going to appear.
Yeah, but it's a location that has been used before and will most likely be used again.
So it's used for a lot of different productions. Memorable one being the vaguely heaven scene in Les Miserables.
The end.
When they're all dead.
Iconic Les Mis.
Also, recent things, I guess Thor is fairly recent. It was in that.
Yeah.
Enola Holmes, they transformed a lot of it. Also, The Great TV show
Catherine
about
the Great.
our lovely Portia Featherington.
Portia Featherington. So, Lucky, what do we think was being filmed over at the Old Royal Naval College in early August?
So we saw a lot of carriages, a lot of extras. No Polin sighting, sadly. So a fan reported that they saw 2 filming spots, so it seemed like they were filming 2 scenes simultaneously. They could not really see any of the main characters. However, they did mention that they saw someone who looked like Hannah Dodd, who is our lovely Francesca. Because the Old Royal Naval College is glimpsed in the background of the to-doom still of Penn and Colin at the market and has been used in past market scenes. That's from episode 302, I believe. So it's possible they were shooting that particular scene during this time. So one extra spotted in the leaks is also carrying a little basket, which you can see some characters carrying in past market shots, such as in 201. So that kind of confirms to me that this is a market scene that they were shooting. We didn't know it at the time, but Rosa Hesmenage has also been seen in these leaks. If you can't recall who her character was, she was also seen in the Bath filming leak, standing with Mrs. Varley and the rest of the Featherington staff, which suggests to us that she may be playing the role of a new lady's maid.
Our lovely Pen.
Yes, although she is covered up, you can also see that she's wearing the same type of hairpiece and collar worn by Eloise's first lady's maid in 201, and you could just barely see a peek of yellow clothing that she's wearing underneath her covering. And in 201, we see a Featherington maid trailing behind Pen and Elle in a yellow ensemble, which is kind of a similar shade, which again suggests that she might be a new lady's maid in the Featherington household.
So the poor maid is having to trail after Penn and Colin at the market. So we get a lot of establishing scenes, possible market pollen, although they were not spotted at the time, but the holiest of set leaks of all. We need to head a short walk away from Old Royal Naval College, up that hill to Ranger's house.
So Ranger's house is another location that's used for Bridgerton. Most notoriously, it's used for the exterior of the Bridgerton house. Filming there includes lots of pickups and establishing shots in addition to like major scenes. The garden is used for a fencing scene, Ben and Elle swings. Also, the area in front of Ranger's house, there's like a big patch of land that is used for Grosvenor Square. And yeah, so it's usually used for a little extra ton shots.
So season 3 made its way up there in early August, still in heatwave territory. They're going to have to CGI some nice grass in there because it all died by the time they got there. And the first few days were all about the setup and putting the famous wisteria, as you said, Beans. There were a lot of establishing shots that we saw of the Ton walking in the street and a lot of costumes and extras. And shout out to our favourite extra, mine and Lecky's anyway, the Bridgerton footman who gave the paparazzi photo a wink.
Yeah, cute.
We salute you, footman. May you keep out of Violet's way all season. But then, listeners, what is affectionately known as the Holy Grail, the leaks to end all leaks. The leaks that quite literally launched 1,000 pirate ships. Pirate Colin time. Lecky, what is going on?
So what we've gathered from these leaks is that Colin returns home the same day as Fran's presentation, just as the rest of the family is departing for the event. The pirate Colin still we received at Doom was taken from this period of filming. In the leaks, we also see Anthony comically chastising Colin, most likely about his less than put together appearance, and there is an adorable hug between the Bridgerton brothers. More importantly, we also glimpse what looks like Colin looking across the street towards Penn's house. This is unconfirmed, but I strongly suspect that's what he's doing in that scene as he returns home.
Yes, he looks very windswept. He looks like he's been in a rush. He looks like he's just got into town. At the time, we weren't sure if he was looking across the Featherington house because we didn't know if it was in the scene or if it was just the actor standing around. But that Dum still has locked us in. I'm pretty sure he's coming home and looking for his Penelope.
Yes.
And we've got almost the whole family there to greet him. All the siblings apart from Daphne, who we later learned will sadly not be in season 3. And of course, the new Viscountess, who was spotted hugging Colin. How are they all looking veg?
Looking at the leaks we did get, they were very exciting. We saw a lot of new outfits which gave us clues as to where we might be in the story. So Francesca, her outfit was very much a debut outfit. Kate was also there. She was looking gorgeous, literally beautiful. I think we all saw that picture of Kate and we were absolutely swooning. But she as well is in that debut presentation matriarch dress, whereas Violet is in the nice blue dress. So that was another clue there.
So we'd suspected since Hannah Dodd's casting announcement that Francesca would have a bigger role and a bigger arc in season 3. And here we see her stepping into society like her 2 older sisters before her. And as Vetch said, Kate is dressed in the presentation colors, possibly suggesting that she will be formally presented in her new capacity as the new Viscountess. Interestingly, a fan also claims that they saw Kate and Fran shooting a scene together, so that was perhaps Kate stepping into her new role as Viscountess, taking responsibility for guiding Francesca through her first social season.
And then we had the lovely ABC. Benedict in a very tight cravat, actually very high. Anthony looking really smart. And then...
And the sacred question.
But what of Colin?
What of Colin? Veg, take us through what we are looking at.
So, Pirate Colin, we had the introduction to our wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous swagger that is Pirate Colin. We've got a lovely long brown leather, shall we say, coat. It's sort of a bit rough around the edges. We didn't see it at the time, but we saw
it in this dumb, yeah.
Tatty shoulders. It's worn. It's seen a lot.
They're not fucking seen too much.
He's also got dusty boots. Pirate's got a pirate. He's also got like a deep blue shirt, deep blue trousers.
Excellent belt.
Looks great. And the gloves, guys. The fucking gloves.
The gloves were incredible. The red gloves.
The untied cravat.
Yeah, loosey-goosey baby, untied cravat. But the gloves, I just can't get over the gloves. But also his hair as well. This was like peak.
This is our first Colin in costume sighting.
Yeah.
And what a bang.
What a bang. Pirate Colin, literally legend.
Yeah, the excitement and the shock and surprise of much of the fandom upon seeing Pirate Colin swagger up to Ranger's house, looking like he walked off the cover of a romance novel.
Yeah, he is pure romance novel.
Pirate Colin was the moment. Now, one of my all-time favourite fandom moments happened during the initial analysis of these filming leaks, because we got quite the array of photos. It was high definition-ish, blurrish kind of. Lecky, what happened?
Polin fans across the globe were traumatized when a fan incorrectly speculated that they saw Penn wearing a pink ensemble during the shoot. The dress had a horrifically large bow on the back of it, and the actress who was wearing the dress appeared to have red hair, according to the person who witnessed this. Upon much review, and thank goodness, the red hair turned out to be a crew member's knee, so that was one crisis averted.
Truly my favourite. This counts as a blurry Penn sighting, only to have been a crew member's knee. Phew. So fans had had a glimpse of season 3 Colin. We were almost beside ourselves with excitement to see, or maybe to not see, our season 3 Penn. But as we say, thankfully, that giant pink, but we just had enough bows last year. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just needed to not have a massive giant pink bow. And oh, we were indeed blessed with another leak, because a fan on the ground who was able to catch quite a few bits of filming said that in addition to the Colin return Francesca debut scene, so that's what we think the opening of season 1 is going to be, Colin returning at that crucial moment for Francesca and the Bridgertons, they also said they saw a few extra scenes being filmed. And most intriguingly of all, it seems that Penelope's attempted reconciliation / confrontation may have been filmed, possibly for episode 1.
Yes, excitingly, from fan accounts, it sounds as though production shot a scene outside Ranger's house a few days later in what looks like their traditional Grosvenor Square backdrop.
Yes.
And Penn, Elle, and possibly Colin were sighted by that fan. So it seems like there may be a Penelope's confrontation or an attempt at reconciliation, as Obbs mentioned. So maybe Penn tries to make amends and receives a cold shoulder from Elle upon returning home. Colin may witness this scene or even attempt to interact with Penn and receive his first cold shoulder from her as well. This would be good because it would also allow us to see Colin reacting to Penn in a new way while she's in one of her older dresses before the actual glow up.
Yeah, so this potential Penelope's confrontation, it could go through ways. There's a few different theories. So I think one theory is that if you imagine Penn and Elle talking in the middle of Grosvenor Square, and Penn's trying to apologise to Eloise and make amends and try to build bridges now that they're both back in town again. And it's possible that what we see is Colin is arriving home just at the end of that confrontation. So Eloise goes back to the house ready to leave for the presentation, and that Colin maybe sees the end of the argument. Penn storms across the road, and that's what Colin is looking out to, is Penelope walking away from him. But I don't think that's what's happening. I think that the Penelope scene was filmed separately to Colin's arrival, because as we know, they film multiple scenes at Rangers to use the location while they can while they're there. So I think what's happening is Colin arrives home at the presentation. He's looking for Penelope, but she's not there. He's gazing over at her house quite affectionately. And then later in that episode, after he's returned home, Penn goes over to speak to Eloise in an attempt to really try and finally reconcile with her after they've been separated for the past 8 months. I think what we're going to see is Eloise brush her off quite aggressively. And I think she might even threaten Penelope to not write about the Bridgertons anymore. And I think Colin is going to see them arguing. He's going to try to intervene or maybe catch up with Penelope after the two ex-friends have separated. And that's when Penelope is giving him the cold shoulder, because we know that that's going to happen quite a few times in the first few episodes. So I think that would then instigate Colin to go follow Eloise and to find out more about why they're fighting. And for then to Colin maybe assume, as we've said previously, that he might think the reason Penelope's given him a cold shoulder is because of the Penelope's drama, as opposed to what he's done.
Right, yes. Yeah, that's a good setup for that.
For Penelope to turn around and explain eventually in an outburst what actually is a problem.
Yeah.
So we've got a little blurry Pen. Veg, how is she looking? How's this particular blur doing?
She is definitely blurry.
Now, this blur shook us.
Yeah, we saw a dress, a pinkish dress that we think is reused. It wasn't people's favourites, and it caused some chaos in the fandom, because this is Penn coming home, and I think even sort of post synopsis, people were expecting a slightly different look.
I think we thought that she was going to be glowed up. I didn't think we thought at the time she was going to arrive back in town as her in her old, well, a regress styling actually.
So this is similar to the season 1 Penn. Like, what stands out about it is the shape of the dress and the puffy sleeves, but also the headpiece. She looks sort of young. I know it's quite far away, but it's the shape of the dress. It just makes her look quite young. But we all did overreact. Like, people were wondering if it definitely was Nicola, because the dress is a bit rough.
Surely this isn't the season 3.
Someone said, surely this is a flashback. But from Bath pickups and the clues into them, but we know that this is probably earlier on, where she hasn't developed her mature, confident style yet. People needed to calm down. It was an old season 1 dress, but it wasn't an awful one.
Lecky, do you know which one it might be?
The shape of the dress is very season 1, like the green dress we see reused in Bath. The cut of the bust is pretty unflattering, but I believe, well, Obs and I believe that this dress was reused from season 1, specifically from episode 102.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
So you can see this dress in the "Is there to be a baby?" scene, and as Penn strolls with Elle in Grosvenor Square afterward. The floral appliques appear to be in the same places. We've kind of examined the two side by side. We will share a comparison on social media so you can see for yourself and see if you agree with us. And Penn also appears to have a feather in her hair, again, like 102.
At the time, people thought it could be a flashback, but we're now pretty sure, like Veg said, that she's arriving back having regressed. And we think that this is Penelope having been in the country under the control of Portia and Portia's styling, coming back. One of the motivations as to why in the synopsis Penelope so wants to have her independence and get away from her mother and her sister. And there we have it, our two leads arriving back home for the season. So as we all collectively try to process a fortnight of chaos, a deluge of information and excitement, we did get a few of the crumbs along the way.
To start off, Love Island fans were delighted and non-Love Island fans were deeply confused when Nick posted matching Colin and Penelope water bottles with the caption, "Can I pull you for a promenade?" Any hint of Colin being chaotic is always welcome. In early August, Jess Brownell also shared a picture on Instagram of the season 3 writing team. Intriguingly, in the description for the post, Jess Brownell wrote, "If we each got $1 for every time we wrote the word splendid, we'd be as rich as Lady Whistledown herself." Since then, the term splendid has been used in a tongue-in-cheek manner by Polin fans, making jokes about Colin's splendid plan to find Penelope a husband that is not himself. However, I really think there is a grain of truth to this kind of joking. I believe Penn and Colin agree to this half-baked plan and will repeatedly insist that it's going splendidly while they're falling head over heels for each other. Adorable. Around this time, one of the Bridgerton season 3 writers posted about how much she liked working in the writer's room for season 3, and she also said that she couldn't wait for the world to see this, quote, horny magic.
Oh, yeah.
Which was also very exciting. Around that same time, Nicola posted a picture to her Instagram stories of 2 wig stands. If you squint, you can just make out the teensiest bit of actual wigs on these wig stands. So for Penn, it's a black and white picture as well, so that doesn't help. So Penn is a wisp of black hair resting gracefully atop a wig stand. You can just make out a solitary wave on the upper right corner of the wig stand, part of her journey perhaps to soften those curls in season 3. But yeah, that's all we got.
And amongst other little crumbs, we got some posts of Penelope and Kate's wigs alongside one another, which was very sweet to see. And then to round off the block of filming, we believe they were over at the studios. We think they were probably filming on set in Uxbridge, possibly Ball Beans, we think maybe.
Yeah, Uxbridge is a studio, and in 2019 Netflix signed an exclusive contract with them to film TV shows there, and Bridgerton has used Uxbridge to create balls from both season 1 and season 2, and that's where they were filming for the end of Block 1.
They also have a lot of frequently used sets built there, so the interiors of the Bridgerton house and the Featherington house, as well as some adaptable sets where they can rebuild the space for new locations. And we believe that there was at least a ball being filmed there because many dancers were on set at the time. In mid-August, Nicola also shared a picture of herself in a corset wearing what seemed to be a necklace, though is covered up with 3 black hearts. For those who haven't been following us from To Doom, I completely forgot about this picture until we saw those stills from To Doom. In the stills, Penelope wears some very unusual necklaces. One appears to be a charm necklace with what looks like 3 charms on it, which immediately reminded us of this innocuous post where Nick covered up this necklace with those 3 black hearts. Could this be the same necklace? We sure hope so, or at least I do. It's also possible that this could be the green necklace pictured in the market still from To Doom, or something else emeraldy, hinting at that emerald of the season concept we've been touching on in recent episodes. And if that concept is significant, I could understand why Nicola might have covered it up like this.
And it got quickly taken down as well. But it's technically a little pen glimpse, so how is she looking, Veg?
So again, we see Nicola in her Crocs, so unlikely this is the look she'll be rocking on the show.
You never know. She's a forward-thinking lady.
Yeah, also see a midriff, which I don't think the ton is ready for. So yeah, she's in black, but her hair is in silks to protect the wig, presumably. But I do note that the silks she was wearing were blue. That's exciting. Bridgerton blue.
There was a theory at the time that it was Colin's shirt. I remember that vividly.
Yes, we thought it was the pirate Colin shirt.
Oh god.
As if like somehow she just nicked it.
I know that I wasn't a necklace truther at the time, but
No, we converted you.
as the years gone on, and this is compelling evidence, this picture, the three hearts, right?
It is.
So I think I might be with you guys.
Beans, are we still trying to win you over?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not on that train. I'm not on that boat.
I'm on the boat that it's a significant necklace. However, I will say that I don't think there is a boat charm. That nothing was in the shape of a boat.
You draw the line at the boat charm.
Yeah. But anyway, closing thoughts on this outfit. Her makeup was very soft and nice and more of the mature look. So that was great to see.
We also got another sneak peek from Nicola, although sadly not in costume, but it was from set, and fans were spiralling over the particular choice of song. Chaise Longue by Wet Leg. All I'm saying is go look at those lyrics and tell me that is not a hint at what Colin is going to be doing in season 3.
The broken furniture.
Block 1, we think episodes 1 and episodes 2 were wrapped up in mid to late August. And how do we know that, Beans?
So a tradition that has come out of Bridgerton is that each of the main leads for their season, at the end of the block, they get a sweet treat for the rest of the cast and crew. The season 1 leads, Daphne and Simon, they bought everybody little candies in little bags. Season 2, Simone and Jonathan Bailey got an ice cream truck. And then at the end of block 1 for season 3, Nicola and Luke Newton got a churro truck for the cast and the crew. That is where we get Churro Crumbs from. And after that post is when I started posting Churro Crumbs, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's the lore of how Churro Crumbs got its title.
How churros became one of the many beloved symbols in the Polin fandom.
Yeah.
And there we go. Episodes 1 and 2 done. Okay, Lecky, we've made it out the tombs. We've left the others in there, but we've just taken a second to step aside. We've dug up all our crumbs. We've dusted them down with our little brushes. We've laid them all out on the examination table. I've picked up a cold along the way, as you can probably tell.
She went into some cave, contracted some sort of bubonic plague. She's recovering.
Like any good archaeologist, it's time for us to compile our post-excavation report. Are you ready? We've tried to piece together our scattered crumbs to see if we can assemble them all together to predict our version of Polin's story in episodes 1 and 2. Lucky, have you ever been into a museum where they have like 2 pieces of a dinosaur skeleton and they've put them against the whole dinosaur and they're like, we promise you that these 2 tiny bones...
This is a dinosaur?
And you're like, well, you're making a leap there, aren't you? And they're like, no, we swear it. This is what we're doing. We have 2 tiny dinosaur pieces. We're not even sure if they're from a dinosaur, but we're assembling them together. And this is what we've come up with. And we cannot stress this enough that this is our speculation. I'm not even dragging Veg and Beans into this. This is just me and you, Lecky. One of our clowning spirals that we like to go on together.
AKA, we continued clowning post-recording and thought it would make sense to share our findings with you and try to make some sense of what we actually presented to you in the episode.
Sense is a big word for it, but, you know, we did try. And after many confused voice notes back and forth, we had diagrams, we were cross-referencing blurry photos, we were jumping to all kinds of conclusions. This is the best we can come up with. It's episode 1 and 2, Lecky and Obs' version. Shall we kick off with our episode 1? Episode 1, Out of the Shadows. We know that's what it's called. That's probably the only thing that's accurate about what we're about to say. We're opening in April 1815. We know this because we can see that Francesca is debuting. It's a traditional way for the season to begin, and the presentation always takes place in April. From future filming leaks, which we'll cover in future episodes, we believe that Penelope arrives back in town with Portia and Prudence, perfectly coinciding with the publication of the very first Lady Whistledown of the season. We know that Penelope arrives in a regressed, unglowed up state. She's got a very tight curls. She's got to return to her old season 1 wardrobe and styling. When Penelope arrives back in town, we meet Penelope's new lady's maid, and the two clearly click with each other, and Pen's gone full on Whistledown. She's back in business. Meanwhile, where's our pirate? Well, Colin returns home on the day of Francesca's presentation, just as the Bridgertons, minus Daphne, are all about to leave for the palace. Colin is clearly dishevelled. He's dressed in his travelling outfit that we're all a deep fan of. It looks as if he's been in a rush to get home. I think he tried to get home for Francesca's presentation. The more romantic ones amongst us think he's rushed home because Penn hasn't been writing to him.
I'm the latter, I think.
Aren't you ever? But he arrives home just in time to wish Francesca luck. His family all embrace him and welcome him home, and they all head off to the palace for Francesca's debut. Colin probably doesn't go with them because I think he probably needs a shower.
Or to change out of the outfit that Antony clearly doesn't approve of.
But then, in the midst of all this, he gazes across over to the Featherington house, a la the Tudum stills, but he doesn't see Penelope right away. But we think Penelope could be watching him from the window because, after all, she's Lady Whistledown and she knows everything that's going on. A little later on, Penelope either intentionally tries to speak with Eloise or bumps into her accidentally in the middle of Grosvenor Square. Penn wants to reconcile, but Eloise is still angry. I think Eloise might even go as far to tell Penn that she's not allowed to write anything about the Bridgertons. Either way, the attempted reconciliation goes terribly, and it becomes clear that the two will not be making up anytime soon. Colin either sees the whole confrontation or catches the tail end of it. He probably goes after Penn, but this is where we get the infamous cold shoulder from the synopsis.
Or the first one, anyway.
He doesn't understand why, but maybe assumes it's because of the fight with Eloise.
The latter bit is pure theory, but we're more confident about the following despite limited proof via filming leaks.
Thank you, because this is where the synopsis kicks in. We're on slightly stronger ground here. At some point in the episode, we find out that Penelope's plan for the season is to find a husband. As part of this, she wants to change her wardrobe, so we think she could go to the Medici to speak to Jen. Maybe this is where we find out more about Penn's plan. She's got someone to talk to about it, and she places some orders. In the meantime, she's stuck with her old wardrobe because, Jen can only sew so fast, and she has a whole new bust line to learn.
That's true.
So she's got some styling to do.
She's never done these designs before, so she's got to take her time, make sure they're perfect.
Uncharted territory. But then, Lecky, we love a bit of tradition. Lady Danbury hosts the opening ball of the season as per usual. Penn attends in her still unglowed up wardrobe. Colin tries to speak to her, but she gives him the cold shoulder yet again. And then we see, curiously, Penelope is trying to flirt with other men, trying to engage in conversation. And we, along with a confused and very bemused Colin, watch as she fails spectacularly. Meanwhile, Francesca is named Diamond of the Season and possibly meets John and or Michael. But then Colin tries to confront Penn about why she's given him the cold shoulder. Maybe he asks along the way about the whole failed flirting attempts thing as well. He's like, what are you doing? And in a moment of anger, or perhaps frustration, Penelope reveals that she overheard Colin and that she intends to marry this season. He apologises profusely, and in a desperate attempt to make amends and save their friendship, he offers to give her lessons so she can find a husband. End of episode 1. We've got the plan in action. Lecky, what's our episode 2? We don't have a title for it, so call it whatever you want to.
Episode 2, still out of the shadows. Penn and Colin have reached a delicate agreement. Penn still trying to keep him at a distance and is annoyed with Colin, but is going along with his plan because she doesn't have any other options. We have a few very innocent lessons where Colin is all swaggery and unfazed. Penn is at the market with her maid and bumps into Colin. They hang out at a stall together. He makes her laugh as any good pal would. Market Polin as per the to-doom still. Jen finally finishes up Penn's wardrobe. Maybe we have a little try-on montage, but glowed up Penn is ready to go. We have beautiful new hair and makeup thanks to Penn's maid, who is quickly becoming a close confidant. I will say that we think these two events could also occur after the first ball of the episode. We're kind of torn there. The market scene makes sense to me as an opening teaser, or might set in motion some sort of montage after the first ball, I think. And we've already seen an unglowed up Penn at a ball, so it might be nice to see her shift into a slightly better wardrobe right away. Moving on, we believe the first ball of the episode occurs at Osterley, which just so happens to be Violet's birthday bash. My reasoning for thinking that this will be the first ball of the episode is that I think there will be a montage of balls later, and that it would make sense to have two important balls bookending this episode. Later, we'll get into the Moonlight Ball. But they seem to have put a lot of work into Osterley, so I feel like it has to be an event of importance, so it makes sense for it to be Violet's birthday bash to me. For Polin, this is the ball I believe that establishes their new dynamic as friends again, and how they are going to work together in this plan to help her find a husband. Penn is fully glowed up as per the season 3 announcement video. She attempts to speak to suitors but is still failing. Colin watches closely to figure out what she needs to work on and realizes she still needs to work on her confidence. And then we believe that we have a lessons montage where they try to work on his advice. However, during this montage, something happens which makes Colin glitch. There's a break where we see Colin feeling things but not yet realizing he's feeling things. That makes a refreshing refreshing change, doesn't it?
Never been done before.
But then we also have what we are calling the Moonlight Ball. This is the one from the To Doom still, and this is the ball that is going to ruin Colin's life. As she's getting ready for the ball, Pen pensively sits by the window in her bedroom. Again, another To Doom still, and she is lost in her thoughts about the whole Eloise and Colin situation. Spending time with Colin has reminded her of why she loves him, and it's all very bittersweet because their whole plan is to get her married to someone else. So she collects herself and heads off to the ball. She arrives, she catches up with Colin about their plan for the night. Colin is still glitching from whatever happened earlier, but trying to act cool. Then she meets Lord Debling, who has just arrived in town. The two hit it off quickly. He's lovely. He collects bugs. Bugling. He's instantly interested in her, and she feels relaxed. They dance. Colin initially looks proud of Pen, and then we get a close-up where his face absolutely drops. Success for Pen, utter catastrophe for Colin. I think this is the moment where we see real emotion from Colin. Like earlier in the day, I think he's feeling things for Pen, but not realizing it. But here, something in him is deeply upset about what is going on. So after she's spoken with Debling, and Debling has asked to call on her another day, Pen expects that Colin is going to be really happy for her, but instead he is extremely bothered, though he has no idea why, and ends up having a very tense moment with her, hence the Moonlight pollen still from To Doom. Colin doesn't know why he's being a dick to Pen. Pen doesn't understand what he wants from her. It's very tense, but then a kerfluffle from the main ballroom breaks out. Lo and behold, the Queen has announced a reward for Lady Whistledown. Dun dun dun. End episode 2. Well, I will just also add that I don't think we have much proof of the Queen announcing the Lady Whistledown bounty here.
No.
But it also kind of just makes sense to open their season with a bang and introduce a new problem for Polin. So the problem in episode 1 was that Colin needs to connect with Pen, so he comes up with a solution to help her find a husband. Episode 2, they're working on that, and Pen meets Debling. That could be the conflict, but there could be one more. It could be that the Queen announces the bounty now as well.
Yeah, and I think, oh my god, Lecky, do you know what we missed out?
What?
When does he give a necklace?
Oh, shit. I'm guessing maybe...
I bet that's why she's pensive Pen. Maybe he gives her the necklace after he's glitched and before the Moonlight Ball. So do you know when she's sat looking really pensive and she's really sad, he's given her the necklace and she sat there like, fuck my life.
Yeah, I like that because I was thinking like maybe he could give it to her during the market scene. And I mean, like, it's really hard to judge because it's just a photo. But she seems like just very carefree smiling there. And I feel like if Colin gave her a necklace and was like, oh, I was thinking about you on my travels and I got you a little necklace or something like that. Or if he just buys one for her on the spot, I think, she would be like more conflicted about it. And she doesn't seem kind of conflicted. Again, it's just a snapshot.
The necklace is in there. For necklace truthers worldwide. That is I cannot believe we've just constructed a whole 2-episode outline based on literally nothing. A couple of blurs at best.
I don't think we'll have as much luck with the later episodes, so enjoy this.
No. This is as full as you're going to get for our predictions. Our predictions for episodes 5 and 6 are just going to be like, and then there are some blurs, and they walk around, and they're blurry.
One was blue.
There was a blue blur, and there was a purple blur. So stay tuned for that. Just as a reminder, this is completely just made up out of our own heads. But please send us a message on Instagram. Let us know, after all these crumbs that we've discussed, let us know your theories for episode 1 and 2. We're so intrigued to see what you make of it all.
Yeah.
Before we head out of the lab and head back and grab the others from the tombs, should we just do a quick recap of our pollen sightings this week? How many blurry pollens did we have? Whilst we're still in the lab, whilst we've still got all of our crumbs laid out ahead of us, should we do some tallying? How many Bridger blurs did we get this week? Insert blur counter here.
Members of the Ton, we have blurs.
So you can't say we didn't see them. It's just we maybe didn't always see them in high definition. And sometimes they were more shades of smudges on a screen than anything else.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you for joining us. I know it's a long excavation that we're taking, but we've got nothing but time to pass. Oh, and just a quick note to everybody. We are back with our episodes. But for the time being, we're going to be moving to fortnightly episodes. So we're still going to be here. It's just we're going to be having weeks off in between to spread out the content, especially over Christmas. And, who knows, make way for possible emergency crumbs. We live in hope. But in the meantime, where can everyone find us?
You can find us at What a Barb Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Ooh, and you can find all the pollen fans on reddit.com/r/pollen Bridgerton.
And there's nothing else for it but for beings to see us out.
does the violin. Do 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 do.
A Polin podcast.